and action.
Hello, this is Anna Graves, the one who stole Obi-Wan's heart as Duchess Satine Kryze in the Clone Wars. And I am skywalking through Neverland, baby.
Very nice.
The following feature presentation is part of the Skywalking Network.
This is what you can look forward to on episode 531 of Skywalking Through Neverland.
And that's kind of what the genesis of this book is all about, is how to create immersive spaces and experiences that engage students.
Well, thank you so much for writing this book. This was like something that educators needed in the 70s.
Paint us a picture then of what the Thomas Riddle School of Tomorrow would look like.
Oh, wow. We shot to number one the first week in education administration, professional development. There's a great, big, beautiful tomorrow just a day away.
Are you ready?
Off to Neverland!
Here we go!
A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away.
To all who come to this happy place, welcome. Disneyland is your land.
When I first made Star Wars, everybody in Hollywood said, well, this is a movie Disney should have made.
You're more than just fans. You're family.
Best day ever!
Secrets learned. It's about family, and that's what's so powerful about it.
Hey.
When you use a bird to write with, it's called tweeting.
When we visit the world of Disney, we never grow old. It's a Peter Pan, Never Land that keeps us young in heart.
This is Jedi Master Obi-Wan Kenobi, and you are skywalking through Neverland. I have a good feeling about this.
Hey, Skywalkers! In this episode, we speak with author Thomas Riddle about his new book, Imagineering Education, a guide to creating the most magical schools on Earth. This is the future of schooling. But right now, we want to welcome you back to Skywalking Through Neverland. I am Richard Woloski, but now everyone please say hello to my sweetie wife Sarah, who's in a very celebratory mood right now. And why is that?
Because our first episode was officially published almost 12 years ago on September 26th, 2013. So this is our 12-year anniversary.
Now, I want to ask all the Skywalkers to go back to our first episode. We can put the post in the show notes, right?
Yes, we can.
All right, we're going to do that.
We recorded our first episode 3 times because we weren't happy with the first 2 results.
It's fun. We're recording with these Radio Shack mics on like a tape player you would get at school in like 1983. But
we've come a long way.
Yeah.
Let's just say that.
We'll put the link in the show notes. So we ask you to go ahead and give it a listen and see what you think.
Listen to that first episode.
Yeah, I do notice that a lot of people do download that very first episode after a convention, after somewhere where we've met a lot of new people. Mm-hmm. I'll notice that very first episode will be higher in the rankings.
Yeah.
People are going back and, well, apparently they stayed with us, so we're doing something right with that first episode.
Yeah. Wow.
This is a big show for our 12-year anniversary, too, because, like I said, coming up, we're going to be talking with Thomas Riddle about his new book, and this was not just an interview, this was an in-depth discussion.
Oh, yeah. It's such a great discussion. We can't wait to share with you. But for now, Skywalkers, we are your enthusiastic podcast destination for the many decades of your Star Wars, Disney, Marvel, and pop culture fandom. So imagine a big Wookiee hug from us, like this Wookiee back here, and a little sprinkle of pixie dust for our family of Skywalkers.
All right, now we are being sponsored by Small World Vacations, and they are a diamond-level Disney vacation planner travel agency that can help you book your trip to a Disney park around the world, or on a Disney cruise, or to the other place over there, the Universal Studios theme parks, the others across the railroad tracks. And best of all, this service is free of charge. So head over there to smallworldvacations.com for a no obligation price quote and tell them Skywalking Through Neverland sent you.
Now, we are recording this from Long Beach, California on September 22nd, 2025. So, Richard, what happened today in Star Wars history?
Well, today will go down in Star Wars history as the day the second Mandalorian and Grogu trailer premiered. Not the first trailer, but the second trailer. We've had a big debate about this.
And why is this?
Okay, I'll break it down again, okay? The first trailer was premiered at Celebration Japan in April. That was the very first trailer. So this would be not the first trailer. What comes after one? Two. But I'm getting a lot of pushback on this. A lot of people say, no, this is the first trailer. But if you want to break it down, you can go, okay, the one in Celebration was the first look trailer. This can be the official trailer, the first official trailer.
I like the first wide release trailer because that first trailer at Japan was only released for the people in the room.
Right. So if you want to break it down like that, you can. But you know what? I'm a stickler for the details and the date. So when I put this into Today in Star Wars History for the revision, I'm going to put it down as the second Mandalorian and Grogu trailer. Believe me, this has been a very big point of argument the whole day.
Okay, but I do have to say, it's very exciting that today is going to be a day that will live on in history because of this trailer release, whether it is the first or second. So do you have any trailer highlights?
Oh, I sure do.
Okay.
All right, I'm gonna go right to it. A man.
Oh!
A man. We get to see this little scene character from Return of the Jedi in Jabba's palace, the one right next to the carbon froze Han Solo, who very slowly turns and looks at Jabba's wall decoration. But they did make a Kenner action figure, so all of us kids of the first generation, we had this action figure. None of my friends knew where this character could be found.
No.
Who is this character and where can it be found?
I don't ever remember seeing it, but yeah.
Okay, watch this scene from Return of the Jedi. See as the camera pans, you see a man right there. Don't blink. Right there.
Oops, I blinked.
Well, then you're gonna miss a man. That's your own fault, okay?
Okay.
So that's my favorite because that tells me that Favreau and Filoni, they're going back into their childhood, hence my childhood, and going, hey, I know what characters really speak out to you, and we're gonna put them into this film.
Makes a lot of sense.
How about you?
So I was really struck by the music specifically because, I mean, already The Mandalorian has such an interesting, different sound because of Ludwig Göransson and that soundtrack and the whole Mandalorian theme, which begins with that bass recorder. And it's so, like, just interesting. And here, it gets the orchestral treatment for this trailer. We hear the entire theme and you see it as it's played. It's almost like they cut the trailer to the music, especially that one part where in slow motion the big AT-AT is falling down the cliff and the theme like slows down for that moment and it hits it right on the button and it's like, wow. So that is what really struck me in this trailer.
Music always a very big highlight in trailers.
Right?
But I want to also point out Rod of the Hutt. he no more is he stinky. Don't call this Rod a stinky anymore because he's been shaping up and working out.
Yes.
This is a fancy man over here. He's been working out the lofty neck.
Yes, he has.
Shaping up and working out.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's been working out, and we got a chance to hear him a little bit as he's trying to rally up the spectators in this arena. And he's voiced by Jeremy Allen White from The Bear.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'm going to have to say that I loved seeing Sigourney Weaver in her outfit, in her costume, not taking any SHIT from Grogu. Grogu's trying to steal something from her, and she's like, nope,
no,
sorry, baby. That's mine.
I just wish they had given us her name.
I know.
I really wish they had.
I know, but I think she fits right in. I know she's Sigourney Weaver, and she's like a big name, but for some reason, she just really fits right in this Star Wars universe for me.
Oh, very, very much so. But you know what's going to happen? They're not going to reveal her name to the very last minute, and then everyone's going to call her Ripley. That's
true.
What's going to happen.
That's absolutely what's going to happen.
But you know what? We're still 8 months out, so they got to save something for the next time.
Yeah.
But this really deserves the big screen treatment. When I saw that AT-AT fall off the cliff, it's like, yeah, this is why this is on the big screen.
Well, it is forged for IMAX.
I can't wait to see that. Oh, I am so excited for this film. I'm so excited for this trailer. Thank you, Lucasfilm. Thank you, Disney, for giving us Mandalorian and Grogu. Coming
exciting.
May 22nd, 2026.
And now let's speak with author Thomas Riddle about his new book, Imagineering Education, a guide to creating the most magical schools on Earth. We always love when authors take it upon themselves to write and publish what is near and dear to them. We are honored to have our friend Thomas Riddle here with us now to discuss his latest endeavor, Imagineering Education, a guide to creating the most magical schools on Earth.
Hey, Thomas!
Hey guys, Richard and Sarah, it's great to be on. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you so much for writing this book. This was like something that educators needed in the 70s. Maybe I would have paid attention.
Yeah, well, I was lucky to have a few teachers who taught more or less like this. And so as a classroom teacher myself, I decided I would just take it upon myself to teach the way I'd like to be taught. And that's kind of what the genesis of this book is all about, is how to create immersive spaces and experiences that engage students like they normally don't in a traditional classroom.
Now, we want to hear all about your background as an educator, but let's talk about your fandom.
Yeah.
So yeah, tell us about what your biggest fandoms are.
Oh gosh, that would have to be Star Wars and Indiana Jones. I was a fan of Stranger Things for a long time until they're going to be like in their 30s now. But yeah, but in anything Spielberg and Lucas, I really like a lot. And I was a big Lost guy.
Oh, Lost as well. Okay. Yeah, because I know we met at the premiere of Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, because you were out for that as well.
Yes. So Indiana Jones is how I first started collaborating with Lucasfilm back in 2007. So that was our when the Young Indy DVD series was being released. I'd been teaching with that series since it was first released in 92. My first year teaching was 91, and then the Young Indy series came out in 92. And so I had a lot of experience teaching with that, and reached out to Lucasfilm when the DVDs were coming out, offered my services to how I could help, and gave them some examples of my lesson plans. And believe it or not, they called back and said, "Hey, let's kick the tires on this."
Wow.
Yeah, because George Lucas, I mean, he's a big fan and promoter of edutainment, right?
Yes,
and so
absolutely.
that seems to be like almost what your book is about. But before we get into that, we also want to know about your teaching background as well, like what age groups and how long.
Yeah, so this is year 35. So I've had 34 years in education, and I've been a classroom teacher mainly at the secondary level, so middle school and high school. The majority of that's high school. I've been a high school principal, football coach. I was at the district office running the curriculum for our social studies curriculum for 5 years for our school district. That's a district of about 77,000 students. And I've been a college professor at my alma mater, Furman University, for 10 years as an adjunct while I was doing those jobs. And currently, I'm the assistant director at Roper Mountain Science Center, which is a school district-owned facility that's really, people call us the educational Disney World because of the resources that we have. So yeah, that's it's been a lot. I've had a lot of experiences over the years, and that's what I've been able to share in this book.
What are your favorite subjects to teach?
Oh yes, so I'm a history teacher by trade. I should have said that. So yeah, that's my background is history, and that's one reason that I was able to work or teach with Young Indy and Indiana Jones and Star Wars for so long because of that subject matter. But history, definitely.
So when you reached out to Lucasfilm to say, "Hey, I'm here to help with Young Indiana Jones," what kind of help did you give them, and are you credited in the TV show?
Yeah, no, none of that. Actually, I was under the radar. I was doing the thing that we were all doing in the early 90s in the classroom. We were recording everything and then showing them in the classroom without license, right? And so my conscience got to me after a few years of doing that, and I wrote George a letter. And this was probably 1997, 98, somewhere in there. and the series had been off, and my tapes were getting worn, as you remember VHS tapes would be. And so I said, hey, this is a great resource. This is how I teach with it. Please release the entire series on VHS. Didn't know if I'd get a response. And Ann Merriweather, who was his secretary at that time, administrative assistant, sent me a letter back within a few weeks and said, hey, George saw your letter. He's excited that you're teaching with young Indy. And we do have some plans, and we'll let you know what those are. And they sent me a study guide that ABC originally published for the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles I'd never seen. I was ecstatic when I got that. And so so I continued. Oh, and by the way, she was like, yes, tacit approval, keep doing what you're doing, right? And so a few years more went by. I wrote him again, and this is when he was working on Phantom Menace, and said, hey, do you have an update? And so this was 99 then, or 98 maybe. And she said that George is very busy, but again, he's excited that you reviewed your letter, excited you're teaching with young Indy, and we'll let you know as soon as we find something out. Well, I never heard anything else. Star Wars took over his life. And that was in 2007. Then I just saw a press release that these 94 documentaries were going to come out to support the 22 feature-length films, the DVD series. And so I said, I got to have some of that action if it's possible. And so that's when I reached out to Howard Rothman, who was head of licensing at the time. And he was, what a sweetheart. And he was such a nice guy, because he didn't ditch the letter. He passed it on to marketing. And I told him that we were going to create a student led one-day pop-up museum exhibition that was going to be at our Science Center 2 weeks before Crystal Skull came out. And I would keep them informed of our success. Now, it was all going to be based on the life of young Indiana Jones and Indiana Jones and the real history behind it. I waited to get a C&D letter, and instead I got the phone call, and they said, hey, we like this idea, let's talk. And so that got us in working with Lucasfilm, and they're just amazing people. And we had a great adventure with that over that course of that year.
Well, no cease and desist for you. That's great.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that they had responded to your letter or kept it, because they had thrown out all my letters when I was 8 years old. I would write and say, hey, George, you need to make all these new action figures like Grand Moff Tarkin. You need to do Uncle Owen and Emperor. I'd write him a letter of all the action figures he should make. And I'm sure he's like, okay, who let this guy? Come on, people. Just send this letter to Kenner.
Well, it got passed on to Hasbro, apparently, because they took all your ideas, right?
This 8-year-old kid was onto something in 1978. Wow, George, you just passed this kid up? Put him in control. He knows what the fans want.
That's right.
Yeah.
As an educator who was challenging the education system to think outside the box, which let's go right around back to your book, which came out on September the 9th.
Yep.
Take us through the process of coming up with the idea and the writing process.
Yeah, so it goes back to when I was serving as acting principal during the design phase of our school district's flagship STEAM-based curriculum middle school. So STEAM is science, technology, engineering, the arts, which I'm a huge proponent of, and mathematics, right? And so we were creating a building that was going to support the curriculum instead of just teaching the curriculum inside of 4 walls. So we actually were designing a space that would encourage this type of teaching. And at that time, during the design of this building, I was on a vacation with my family at Disney World. And my boys were much younger. And I was, I was watching them play on Tom Sawyer's Island in Scavenger's Fort and thinking about how much fun we'd had over the past several days and how much they had learned going through Epcot and the scavenger hunt through the World Culture Showcase and then what we learned about conservation at Conservation Station, Animal Kingdom. And I began to think, what would it be like to bring field trips to Disney? Because the kids can learn so much. And then I started thinking, wow, that's way too expensive. And I'm in South Carolina, they're in Florida. Well, why couldn't we design schools like this, that operate like this? So before we left, I bought up all the books I could find in the gift shops on Imagineering process and took a deep dive John Hench's book Designing Disney became kind of like my design Bible during that time, and realized they were giving language to what I knew intuitively works as a classroom teacher, to create these immersive spaces and experiences for your students. Because whenever we are engaged emotionally, whatever happens at the time is going to be imprinted into our long-term memory. And so, if I were to ask you what was your first experience seeing Star Wars when you were a kid, you could probably remember. And that was, if you're like me, that was 77. I was OG, and no matter when it is, though, you can still remember that all these years. Same way with teaching is, if I want my students to remember what I'm teaching them, then create this positive emotional experience, just like we experience at Disney, and then that what they're learning they're going to remember it. So all of that was happening at the time I was designing the school, and someone in our local community invited me to do a TEDx talk. And so the TEDx talk was called Reimagineering Education, and it was based on this premise: is what if we design schools like Disney designs theme parks? So I've given that talk twice, and it got a lot of reception, a positive reception, and Big Ted picked it up, and I was like, wow, there's something here. People understand this. And as a classroom teacher and as a principal, I saw the value in creating schools where kids want to be and where teachers want to teach. And so that's really kind of where the premise or the origins came out of that time when I was with my family on a vacation, and then designing that school, and then just heavily influenced by the amazing design work of the Imagineers.
That's awesome. And speaking as a kid who was in one of the top 3 school districts of the US, like there was a lot of stuff that I experienced that is like what you're talking about in your book. Like there was one history class, we went through the Revolutionary War, and they had everyone in the class pick a side. And we actually had like a day where we came, like you could dress up and you could like act out scenes from like the Revolutionary War. And it really stuck with me. In terms of that. Do you remember?
Well, what I remember is that just a couple of years ago when we were on the Galactic Star Cruiser, and it was so much fun to watch kids. They were really zoning into the story. They were combining forces with Rey and Chewbacca and coming up with these plans to fight the First Order, and learning about strategy and just learning as they went along, learning all through, you can call it education, because it really was educating kids to be immersive and not be on their phones and letting the entertainment come to you, but you're going to the entertainment. I thought that was just phenomenal. And we do shows at preschools all around Los Angeles, and there are some schools that will have a playroom that's set up like a little village, and they have these little post offices and a police station and a fire station, and it's like, oh, if I had this as a kid, I could have really broadened my horizons.
There's like a reading nook. All these,
And it's great to see that. And so when you're talking about this, like, yes, we need more of this.
Mm-hmm. Right. And and it doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to break the bank. You don't have to have a massive budget. Okay. We're talking about, and Sarah, probably like you remember in that Revolutionary War experience, your teacher didn't bring in all new furniture and change everything. It's just reconfiguring what you have. Now, if you can design from the beginning, like if you have access to the color, changing colors or things like that, then I go into that a lot in the book about, the importance of that color can play in eliciting emotional responses, things such as that. But even, when I was assistant principal, let's talk about smell for a minute. You can do this as well. It's easy. So I learned from a veteran principal, a mentor of mine, that if you thought you were going to have parents in for something might be kind of a contentious conversation, keep a can of compressed citrus in your desk and then spray it before they come in, because the science behind it is that citrus has a calming effect. And so let me tell you, as a first year AP, and I'm nervous about, these parents coming in, I'm spraying that stuff all over the place. It smells like an orange grove, right? But it actually is. There's research behind the use of scent, even how it can calm. But there's things that you can do, and I go into a lot of those details in the book about just low level strategies, things that you can do next day in your classroom as a teacher. Even the use of lighting. is something that you can do to enhance the learning experience. So, but yeah, that's I love hearing that there are schools out there, and I see them more and more where there are places that do appreciate learning by doing, not learning by sitting and getting. So
Right.
that's very much what we're talking about, and that's what the emphasis is in that little playtown, right? Is getting kids acting like that. We just need to we need to continue that type of learning though as we progress through middle school and high school, because we think that for some reason that play and learning has to be mutually exclusive from one another, and it's not. That's play is actually how we learn from our earliest time, and so the play is a very important part of learning. And that's something else I cover as well. And John Hinch had a lot to say about that, and Disney as well, that, Hinch actually said that play is a basic human need, and that as adults, we often forget that. And so there's a lot that we need to do in schools to get kids excited about learning again.
Yeah, when we do our shows, they're mainly for like the younger kids, 4, 5, 6. But sometimes if it's a camp, some of the 9, 10, 11-year-old kids will sit in the back with their arms folded. And I always make it a point to include them in everything that we do. And they're having the greatest time playing with you, playing off of you.
Yeah, by the end, they're all into it.
As long as you don't talk down to them, but talk to them, they are right there. They are Johnny on the spot.
That's it. You guys are teaching it whether you realize it or not. Man, come on, let's go.
Yeah, exactly. So you do also say in your book that schools can be stuck in time as the world outside evolves, too rapidly for them to really catch up. So do you think that's due to like a lack of creativity as we get older, or is it budgetary reasons?
Well, I think there's several factors there. The American school system, as we know it currently, was established for a different age and time. It was schools were that we, the American school system, public school system, came of age in the late 1800s. The late 19th century. It was based on what's called the factory model. And where it was like you literally you were educating kids to either go into white collar work or blue collar work, and it was really kind of a factory system. And if you look at classrooms from the early 1900s, and they're all sitting in rows, these wooden desks, all in rows, and packed in a classroom. If you look at schools throughout time, even today, you go in a lot of classrooms, and it's still like that. Some people call it a bell to cell approach, where it's just like you're in a cell. And the bell rings, and you go to your next cell, and it's learning is in isolation from one another. I'm a major proponent of interdisciplinary learning, because life is more messy than just learning in silos. So we need to prepare kids to think that way. But so some of it comes back to budgetary. People think that you have to have a lot of money to change the way you teach, but you don't. I never had desks in my classroom that were on casters or anything like that, where it was easy to move them around, but I could always configure my class in different ways. And I would do that, never use straight rows. I never put myself at the front and kids at the back. I always created a system, and I was always moving around the class so that there was never a front and back, where I'm always arm's length from a kid. So they're right there engaged in what I'm teaching or talking about. So there is an idea that we teach like we were taught. Okay, we teach like we were taught, and if we don't intentionally consider our teaching, if we don't intentionally train the next generation of teachers how to teach differently, then they're going to do like they're going to continue to teach like they know. And so what I'm really, one thing I did when I was a college professor, I was teaching students that wanted to become teachers. All right. And so I love that because I had an opportunity to kind of mold them and shape them into giving them these ideas about being more creative in your approach. And unfortunately, I think too, Sarah, though, there is a lack of creativity as you progress through schools. You go to elementary school, and man, you'll see murals on the wall a lot of times. You guys see that when you go into primary schools, right? There's a lot of color and it's all that. When you go into middle schools, there might be a little bit more of that, but or a little bit less, but maybe still there. By the time you get in high schools, a lot of times high schools can be very rigid. Now, luckily, I'm in a school district that's pretty progressive, and we have high schools that have murals and everything as well. I mean, there's a lot of arts, a emphasis on the arts, which is great. And you might think that that doesn't make a difference, but it really does. You want to create a space where people that's inviting and warm and welcoming, where people want to be, including the students first and foremost. But unfortunately, I think as when we're kids, we are very creative, but kind of school kind of beats that out of us, unfortunately, as we age. And I say this, I've always mentioned that in all my talks, or working with administrators even. Be careful not to discourage the creativity in your students or your teachers, because we go from play, like I said, learning is play, to more of a kind of a rote memorization and less creative thinking. So I think it's kind of a combination of those things.
It's when you were just saying that, I thought, what really beat the creativity out of some schools when I was growing up? And the college I went to, Emerson College, was a film school. And I think it was like the first 2 weeks, I'm realizing a lot of these students here in this creative school are trying for the grade. Instead of trying for the creativity, they're trying for the grade. So I would tell my teachers, and they would give me my story back, and they said, "Rich, you get like a D minus. However, yours was the one story I always look forward to reading because it was entertaining." And I would tell these teachers, I don't give a dang about my grade. To start me off with an F. That way, it frees me up to be creative, and I can do what I want. And I would talk to other students like, yeah, I want to get a good grade, so I've got to say this in my report, all these hot topics, to the teacher will go, oh, okay, this is what I want to see, and this is ding, 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 ding. They're checking off all the boxes instead of being creative. And I was just so annoyed at that. So I would try hard to get a bad grade, but yet have the teacher go, wow, that was a good film.
Yeah, I love that. And that honestly is a perfect example, because especially by the time you get to university, these are kids who are typically high flyers in general, and they know how to win the game, right? The game of education.
Yes.
I know how to study. I know how to get the grades. And that's because that's what we've taught, and first and foremost, it hasn't been follow your passion. What I used to hate hearing as a classroom teacher is when the kid raises a hand and says, hey, is this going to be on the test? I'm like,
yeah.
It's the age old question.
You're missing the whole point.
That's it. You know what? I was like, look, if we just learn together, the rest of it will take care of itself. And a test is not, I'm trying to get you, I'm trying to trip you up or something. I would always tell my students, look, just chill. A test is an opportunity for you to demonstrate how much you learned, show off how much you learned in my classroom. Kind of flips the script. But yeah, a lot of it, unfortunately, Richard, comes down to chasing test scores, standardized test scores, becomes of accountability. And it's just really, it's changed so much in the last 30 years than what it was when we were in school, and even when I was early in my career, because of the level of testing that now teachers have to give kids.
So paint us a picture then of what the Thomas Riddle School of Tomorrow would look like.
Oh, wow.
Like with and without budgetary concerns. So what is your blue sky?
There we
Thomas
go.
Riddle
I was going to say,
School of Tomorrow.
Let's go blue sky, right? So,
yes.
In a blue sky school, then it is one that is not just a place where students like to be, but first and foremost, the administration and the teachers want to be there. They understand that the reason their jobs exist is because of the kids, is to help students become the best versions of themselves at whatever part of the journey that I happen to have those kids. As you come in at the beginning of the day, you're going to hear music as you enter the front of the school, as you get out in the car line. Think about, there's never a place that you go in a Disney park where you're not hearing something, right? Mm-hmm. And so we actually do this a lot at Roper Mountain, where when kids get off the bus for the field trips, they hear music already. It's kind of setting the mood, setting the tone. So when you come into the front of the building, you're going to see a colorful welcome. There's going to be a space. You're going to see plants. You're going to see a lot of lighting. They're going to be greeted by some adults because every child needs an adult advocate, and unfortunately, they don't always have that adult advocate in their lives outside of the classroom. And so teachers need to understand that, hey, you might be the only smile they see all day. You might be the only one word they hear all day. And so it's going to be a warm place and a place where they're excited to be. It's going to be a place that immerses them in the story of whatever we're teaching, because stories are so important. And stories, again, are how we learn. We're wired for stories. And so our classrooms are going to be places where stories encouraged. And it doesn't just have to be ELA or social studies. You know, my wife's a career-long math teacher, and she used to say that, word problems are nothing more than stories in shortened form. And so so it's going to be a place where kids are going to be able to do that. And it's going to be a place too where we play to the kids' strength, where we give them opportunity, like Richard, like you said, of be as creative as you want to in this writing assignment. I can correct your grammar. Yes, you're going to have some foundational stuff, but I want you not worry about making a grade. Just let your creativity go. Okay. It's going to be a place where we help kids to dream. As a principal, it's going to be a place where I can help my teachers dream, where I can give them permission to try new things. And if it fails, then a failure is only success in progress, right? That's all it is. And so, the first time I was ever a principal, I walked into the very first day with my faculty, and I had a big binder of lesson plans. Standards for all of the subjects that we had to teach, the state standards. We had to cover all this material in a year, and I intentionally put it in a big binder. I dropped it on a table, and it thud, for effect. And I waited, and I said, "This is everything we have to teach this year." And then pause for effect. And I said, my job is to make your job easier doing that, to be as creative as you can be. I want you to have permission to do anything that you think is necessary to help these kids be successful, however you want. And I want you to work together, collaboratively, not in isolation. And I don't care how we get there. Just by the end of the year, we will have taught all this stuff, but you're going to make it as fun as you want to, and you're going to take chances, and it's my job to support you in that. And I'm going to tell you what, those first 3 years I was a principal were incredible, because that was how we approached it. Because going back to the model school, it's a place where everyone works together on the team to strengthen each other. It's just like the Imagineers, right? Everyone has a different job to play. You have artists, you have engineers, you have designers. And so we're going to have a school that's collaborative, where we work together. And also, it's one where it's a community center. Walt was big about that in the original vision for Disneyland, that it would be a community hub, a place that would showcase all the wonders of the world. And that he actually said it's where students and teachers can come together and learn together, and children and adults can share together in fun and education. And so that's a place too. This school is going to be a place that's a community hub, where the community is invited in and we welcome them. It's going to be a school where our custodians have an equal place at the table as our cafeteria workers, as with the teachers, and hearing their ideas and how do you think we can improve things. And I'm giving you the full power. Just like, I love seeing the street sweepers at Disney do the art with the water.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing somebody one time who came up to one of those guys came up to a family that had a map. And he's like, "Well, where are you guys going?" They wanted to go to the Peter Pan ride. And he said, "Well, then let's follow the leader." And he, took his broom up like
Aww.
this. And he said, "Do you know the song? We're following the leader." And he led the family there. Okay. And so it's going to be, our schools need to be a place where we go the extra mile. Disney likes to pride itself on plussing the experience for their guests. How can we as teachers plus the experience for our students and our parents in the community as a whole? So that's kind of in a nutshell. I could go on, but that's kind of what that school would look like.
I'm very happy to hear all this, because I'm just seeing way too many videos and shorts and YouTube and TikToks where teachers are like, "I'm done. I am done.
Yeah.
I cannot do this anymore." Yeah. The kids have no respect for the teachers, and I'm losing interest in teaching them. It's all about a paycheck right now. Kids will not get off their phone. Parents will not support us. I am so done. So hopefully, after hearing what you're even saying, hopefully this will turn the tide and kids will want to go to school and then go, oh yeah, I got a phone, but it's in my locker.
Yeah,
And
right.
just stay and just pay attention to the plans and to the design and being immersed in the classroom in this story.
We have to take the handcuffs off a lot of teachers in terms of creativity and what they teach. And again, um, there's it's not pointing blame or placing fault, because at the district level, there's pressure on having test scores have to be at a certain level, right? And so that pressure goes down to the principals, and the principals are told, hey, you have to make sure your teachers are doing X, Y, and Z because our scores have to come up. And then that goes down to the teachers, and the teachers have this idea that we have this pressure put on us. And we really, again, going back to the magic wand, then we're going to focus first on teaching and not worry about the test scores. We're not going to worry about that stuff. We're going to go back to basics. Those young teachers, because I see it too, Richard, and it breaks my heart. Those young teachers, we're going to teach how to how to engage your students, how to make them, how to create a culture in the classroom to make it a place where they want to be. And one of the things is just simple enough. It takes a little bit of time, but you can do it in the first 9 weeks of school. Show interest in your kids. The kids that were the most hardcore problems for me is the ones I would put the most time in trying to find out about their life. And a lot of times what I found out is that those kids were coming from a tough situation. And so this was a front for them. It's a mask for them. I love when I taught Star Wars and the Hero's Journey. And, we talked about why people wear masks. And what masks, I would ask my students all the time, so what masks are you wearing? And we would do this as a writing assignment. Why do you feel like you have to put on a mask to be different than what you are? And so it's honestly just getting to know your kids and where they are in their life, going to their games, going to their concerts, and they don't have to see you. Say, hey, you didn't see me, but I saw you playing the other night, and that was a great catch you made. Well, you're at my game. Yeah, absolutely I was. You start to show interest in them, and they're going to start to show interest in you. So there's little things that we can do like that to encourage these young teachers. I just want to take them all and put them in one big space and say, hey, y'all, let's just talk shop for a little bit,
Yeah, and your book also, your book is definitely made for teachers to read and kind of open up their minds about that. Now, for you as an educator, what classes do you think are missing from today's curriculum that you would add in if you could?
That's great. Civics.
Okay.
Civics is a big one. You're talking to a social studies guy here, but that was a required course. I don't know if you guys had that in high school. In ninth grade, it's separate than U.S. government. Civics is about civic responsibility. You get some kind of an introduction to government, but it's more about this is how we take care of each other as a community, as a nation, as a world. And so I think civics is one that is a big one. I'm going to tell you this one too, home ec.
Yeah.
Home ec and shop. I learned to sew. I learned to cook. I don't do a whole lot of cooking. My wife will tell you that, but you do more. But I learned all of these things in home ec. I took it twice, actually, in 7th grade and 8th grade. Learned how to sort clothes and do laundry. But more importantly, the life skills. We're talking, we call them soft skills in education. I'm like, no, these are important life skills. I learned how to handle a hammer and saw, some from my dad, but then again in shop class in 7th grade. And, we had an amazing shop teacher at the high school where I taught for 13 years named Delmer Howell, big Star Wars fan. He was a huge Star Wars nerd. And Delmer taught shop like a math class. Kids learn more math in that class than they probably did in the regular classroom because of all the measurements you have to do.
Yeah, that's true.
And so he was an amazing teacher, but kids would build furniture, and so I think that's those three classes: civics, home ec, and then shop class. I don't know. Many school districts don't have the level of career development like our district does. In South Carolina, particularly, we have an outstanding career development centers. So like in our district, we have 4 career centers, and that's where you go to where you can learn how to be. By the time you graduate, you can have a carpentry certification, welding, electrician, beautician, or cosmetology. So it's careers, it's the trades that we desperately need and that are dying. And so I think an emphasis on the trades is something we need to also look at as well. And so, it's, I think those are the things that I would definitely say that we really need to focus on again.
I would like to add one, and I don't know if schools are already encouraging or teaching this, but that's money management.
Oh, thank you.
I don't.
Yes, financial management class. Yes.
Yes. My nephew took one way back in high school, years and years and years ago. And I've never heard it being offered again. And I talked to a lot of students just to ask them, what are your favorite courses? And a lot of kids will say, oh, math. Most of them will say math for some reason, but none of them have ever brought up money management. Now, I think geography and chemistry and biology, great courses if you're going to go into those fields. If you're not, maybe put them aside, and those students who want to take those will take them now. But money management is something that everyone should know. And as far as I know, correct me if I'm wrong, are these classes being taught?
So that's a great question too. And again, I can talk about this from a social studies perspective, because like I said, I was in charge of that program in our district for a number of years, and just being a lifelong social studies educator. Some of that stuff, Richard, is taught in economics classes, okay, like in econ, but not much as it used to. There was a point in time, and like when I was in high school, we had a financial management class. It was a money management class. And not only did you learn how to, and it was a semester long, so it wasn't an entire year, it was a semester. And I can't remember what it paired with, but it paired with another class. But we learned how to balance checkbooks. We learned how to create a budget for a family. We learned how to cash checks back in the day, how to write checks. You might know what a checkbook is anymore. So that one, Richard, yes, thank you for saying that, because that is one that I see. My wife and I have 3 young adult sons. So luckily they have a brilliant mom who is a great money manager. And so they have been taught very well at home. They did not get that in school. And I see some of their friends, though, who struggle in that area. And it's something that's highly needed. So I would add that to our Blue Sky School as well, Richard.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, on my campus at Emerson College, there was always people trying to get students to apply for a credit card. It's like, oh, well, that's smart. That's very, very smart, because students need credit cards. And then my mom said, look at the APR. It's 10 point what?
20 point what?
Yeah. I was like, oh, that makes a whole lot of sense on their part. But when I see those people out there, it's like, dude, you're not doing anything for us.
No.
These people are evil.
Yeah, I remember showing up my first week at Furman University as an 18-year-old freshman, and the mailbox had 2 or 3 credit card applications in it already. And I was like, same conversation with my mom and dad. I was like, hey, do I need to do this? They're like, no, don't touch it.
Yeah, like I learned my lesson the hard way. I racked up
exactly.
like $10,000 in debt and had to pay it off for the next 8 years.
Right.
Yeah, but yeah.
These people are not your friends.
No, it's bad. Yeah.
So I can tell you this though. There are opportunities though in multiple classrooms. Again, math class is a great one, a great example of this, because my wife would do this with her 8th graders that she taught for 20 plus years. You can work in some of that money management stuff within like a math curriculum fairly easily. You can do it with a lot of different subjects if you want to. Again, it takes that creative thought, and it takes someone who doesn't feel like they have to just be so lockstep with the state standards or prescribed curriculum. Unfortunately, there are some districts that do have a just prescribed curriculum, and teachers can't navigate away from that. They have very little leeway. But in classrooms where they can, I encourage teachers to be as creative as possible. And still, going back to those young teachers, I would tell them this right now. Those ones who are frustrated, I've always believed that the 3 R's of education are not reading, writing, arithmetic, you know, like we used to say, right? But it's rigor, relationship, and relevance. And you want to give kids that are challenging work, not it's going to like you're trying. It's going to be soul crushing, but it's going to be something that's going to challenge them and push them and grow them. Okay, so that's you want to have work that's rigorous. The second though is you want to have work that's relevant. And so you're teaching kids financial management that's relevant to their lives. We used to have an eighth grade curriculum that was taught in history classes in South Carolina, but it was all about money management. It was kind of a weekly handout in a short little video that we would Orlando Jones actually did them. I don't know if you guys know the actor Orlando Jones.
Yeah.
Evolution. Orlando went to Malden High School, which is in where I actually started teaching. So Orlando was one of his first acting jobs was in this little Money Works, Let's Cash In. That's the name of it. And he made all these little videos. Like, you remember the song OPP? I don't know. It was like, it's an
Get Down with OPP.
Yeah. And so Orlando had this rap. You want a JOB? You know, no, you want some money? Then you go get down with JOB or something. I forget. But anyway, yeah. So, but you can teach these things in. You can work this stuff into the curriculum, but it's got to be relevant. My kids always perked up when we're talking about money because they're getting ready to get a driver's license. Mm-hmm. They want a job. They want a car, right? So that's the relevant piece. And the last R is relationships. Again, it goes back to you want to really get to know your kids. You really want to get to know where they're coming from. So you'll know where you can meet them and the needs they have outside the classroom. So there is a chance to work in learning like this. That's like you were talking about with the financial piece. And especially if you can make it relevant to them, they're going to really pay attention. Because if it's not relevant to where I am and I'm 16 or 17 or 15, I'm checking out, you know?
Yeah, it's funny that you say relevance because I'm going back to when I was in 7th or 8th grade and they were teaching us about the Pythagorean theorem. I'm in my mid-50s now. I don't even know what that is. I've never used it. I've never needed an isosceles triangle either.
But let me call my wife real quick.
Delete. What do you see kids gravitating more towards as an educator? Because like I was saying earlier, when we ask kids what their favorite subjects are, they always say math. What do you see kids gravitating toward?
You know, I think it all depends on the kid, really. You know. For some reason, math has a bad reputation, you know, and I was kind of like that. I loved math until, unfortunately, I had one math teacher who turned me off completely to that in 7th grade. And I struggled at math after that because I thought that I wasn't any good at it. That's the power of a classroom teacher, of an individual. You have the power to raise a life up to new heights or to really delay their development or turn them off. And I see most teachers are raising kids up to their full potential. But math is one that I think a lot of kids say they don't like, but I've seen kids that absolutely love math.
Oh, yeah.
Social studies and ELA. A lot of kids like ELA because there's stories there. And again, we're wired for stories, and kids, you know, they love that story time. You know, love reading stories.
Is that language arts?
I'm sorry, ELA. Yes, English language arts. Sorry,
okay,
that's something else that lifelong educators we're notorious for acronyms. You know, it's terrible. Yeah. You know, I think though, it all comes down to. I've seen this. I've seen kids have a subject become their favorite subject when it wasn't originally because of the teacher.
Right.
I've seen the teacher make that difference. You know, and let's just go back to math example. I know so many students that my wife would have as 8th grader because our schools were in the same feeder system. She was at the middle school, I was at the high school. And they would have her in 8th grade. They'd end up getting me at some point in high school. And they would tell me, yeah, Miss Riddle was one of my favorite teachers because she made me work hard. And I appreciate that. And she made learning math fun. And, you know, that's the power of a teacher. So, you know, a lot of kids will say that their favorite subject was the one that their favorite teacher taught. Yeah. So, yeah, that's what were you guys? What about you guys? What were your favorite subjects? Mine was always history, but what was you guys?
You know what? Honestly, I didn't. I'm almost embarrassed to say this, but I never knew what a government did or the Senate until the Phantom Menace. It's like that's what a senator is or a governor. That's what those hearings are all about. Some people say, "Oh, the Phantom Menace is all about politics." Say, "Yes, thank you, George Lucas." Now I'm learning something.
That's funny.
And yeah, I want to come back to that if I can, just 1 second. Sarah, what was your favorite class in school?
So I would have to go with band was always a big favorite. In middle school, I had a teacher, Mr. LaCour, who still my favorite teacher, but he was just so relatable, and he also played the French horn, which is the instrument I had chosen. And we actually became friends and shared Star Wars books, like the Heir to the Empire novels. Yeah. We traded with each other. So that was one. And then my English teacher in high school, really, I had the same English teacher for all 4 years, and her classroom, and I thought a lot about this as I was reading your book, her classroom was set up, they were tables. So you would sit with students at a table, but then she had a whole section. She had like this double classroom. It was like bigger than anyone, like an L shape. And at one end of their classroom, she had all these couches. And so like occasionally she'd be like, okay, it's reading time. And we'd all like just head over to the couches and just chill out and read a book. And this was my English class for 4 years. And it was amazing. And I loved it.
I would say generally English classes for me because I loved writing stories.
Right.
And bringing all that out.
Well, I love what you just said too, is that's
and her lighting, by the way, too. She'd like she'd have lights, she'd turn off the fluorescents, have other lights. Yeah. And like the whole mood would change.
Yes. Fluorescent lighting is the absolute worst.
Yeah.
So yes, having lamps around, don't ever use those. I would take flags, and cover the fluorescent lights, which muted the colors. Right.
Yeah.
But that is a great example. What you just described is the kind of classroom I'm talking about. And you don't have to have a lot of money to do that. Mm-mm. You can go to,
Goodwill.
I was about to say, go somewhere like Goodwill or on a budget, you can suddenly transform your classroom. I had one chair that was like, it was an oversized, wasn't a recliner, but it was just a regular blank, but it's a regular chair, right? Love seat. Okay. Yeah, kind of like that. Right?
Okay.
Yep. And my kids would almost fight over getting to sit in that instead of their desk. And it was in the center of class. You had, if you sat in it, you had to write in your lap, write your notes and stuff in your lap. But it's just something different. Bean bags change the world, even for high school kids.
Yeah.
Changes the world. But Richard, going back to what you said about Phantom Menace, I want to just real quick mention something to that. That is why I taught with Star Wars, taught ancient history with Star Wars, because whenever we would, to back up, if you want to teach 15-year-olds, they come into your class as ninth graders and they have to learn about ancient history. I'm like, oh my God, all the eye rolls, right? But from, in the second week of school, we're watching A New Hope, because what I told them is that the way that we get to know people that lived differently from us is through their stories. The stories that they tell. So with every ancient culture we studied, we were going to study their most important tales. And from those tales that they could deduce, why is it that they're writing about these topics? Why is it that they're writing about these morals? Or what does this tell us about these people, by the stories they tell? Because I'd always ask students, hey, like first day of school, first day of my class, hey, what'd you guys do this summer? And they start telling me, oh, I did this is great. Do you have any favorite movies you saw? Oh yeah, what movies? And I write a movie on the board. Oh, that's great. I got to write that down so I'll remember. And I say, what about good books? Not as many hands, but still, good book, great. And I say, I've got a list full of movies and books up here, and that's favorite TV shows, same thing. And I say, well, let's categorize some of these, right? And so these are like romance, and this is action, and this is war, and this is mystery thriller. And I'd say, look, everything that you're going to learn in my ancient history class is one of these subjects. It's all this stuff. These are the stories you like. You're going to love these stories that you're going to learn in history, because all the stories of the past have already happened. And we're just kind of replaying them, if you will. And we wouldn't, unless we learn from the mistakes of others that went before us. And so I would tell them, to help you understand these stories, we're going to study something called the hero's journey. And I would teach them Joseph Campbell's 3 stages of the hero's journey. And then when we would start out with the beginning of the year, like I said, with New Hope, and talk about the importance of storytelling and what story does this tell, and what morals does this story tell, and and then but we had to learn the elements of the hero's journey. So, what's the wise and helpful guide, and what's a magic talisman, and who are the hero partners, and what's the dragon combat, and things like that. So when we came, Richard, to Return the Jedi, I would teach that whenever we're teaching ancient Rome and the Roman Republic and the Senate. And so we would talk about why we went from a republic and the republic fell and it was the rise of a Senate. We would talk about the rise and fall of the Roman Empire and relate it to the rise and fall of the empire in Star Wars. Same thing with the rise and fall of Nazi Germany and how these parallels. And so now suddenly kids are getting it because they like Star Wars. I can embed the history and they remember it.
Yeah.
That's how they learn Taoism. I taught Taoism with Yoda.
Nice. Thomas, can you be my history teacher growing up?
Yeah, I'd love to do that. So
yeah, I used to have some teachers would say, "Would you stop it with the Star Wars business? Come on, we need to do this. You need to read and write this." But it's like, hold on, I'm interested in stories. I'm interested in these artists who drew these Star Wars paintings. Oh, stop it with that. It's like, but it's right that I'm giving you these steps to reach me. But yet you're not doing it until they finally did give up and they were creating Star Wars math problems for me. But when you're doing, if Richard went to a yard sale and bought three SW cards for 15, it's like, okay, I see the effort, but no can do on this. Okay.
No. Are we talking about blue series, green series, yellow series, or orange series? I mean, that makes a difference.
Oh yeah. They would have just they used to pull markers out of my hand if I was drawing Star Wars paintings. Yeah,
man,
but then again, there were some other teachers like Mr. Height, if you're still out there, if you're still alive, and I give all the credit to you because he would encourage Star Wars. He would want to hear the Star Wars stories. So, he was a fan too, so he'd love to talk about it. So I used to be a shy kid, if you can believe that. But when we're talking about Star Wars, like blah, I'd go crazy with it.
Word vomit.
Yeah.
We actually, and I don't know if you remember this in the book or not, Sarah, but I tell the story about one of our students who was a 9th grader who I got called when I was principal. I got called to the teacher's class. And it was not the first time I get called to a class about this kid. And it wasn't that he was belligerent or anything. He would just lay his head down on his desk and want to sleep and not do anything. And so I was called down for the student again. And I went to get him, woke him up. And I noticed when he got up, there was a piece of paper on the desk and it had a beautiful drawing on it. And so I grabbed that drawing and I took him out in the hallway with me. And I said, dude, what's going on? Why aren't you paying attention? Teacher just wants you to pay attention, regular principal talk stuff. But then I said this, did you draw this? And he's like, yeah. And I said, dude, this is really good. This is actually great. And this was one of the first few weeks of school. And I said, what's your related arts class you're taking? And he's like, he said music, but I knew he meant chorus. And so you got this kid who's like 4 foot nothing and doesn't want to be in school. And he's got to be and our course teacher was an amazing talent and larger than life, but he was not going to thrive in that environment. And so I said, okay, I'm going to keep this. Can I keep this drawing? He said, yeah. So I said, go back in class. Don't lay your head back down. Pay attention. I went to the art teacher. I said, hey, I got this kid that drew this. I said, do you have room in art 1 for him? And she looked into the rosters and said, yeah, I think I do here. So anyway, I could do this as principal. I stretched his schedule and I got him out of course. I put him in art 1. I called him in my office. I said, hey, I've switched your schedule. Go me to art now. Is that okay with you? I guess. Hey, it was just kids. And then I'm gonna tell you what, he got in there and he thrived. Come to find out, the young man, his mom was working 2 jobs and still going to school to be a nurse. At night. So his older sister, who was only 2 years older than him, was helping take care of him and the baby brother all the time. And so it was a home situation where we got the mom in, we got the big sister in, and we were all team players to make this kid succeed. And all we showed was interest in him. And we tell you what, he made an A in art 1, one of the best students. Went to art 2, art 3, art 4. By the time he graduated, I called his name out crossing the stage, and he was like 6'2" and was going off to graphic design school. That's the power that teachers can have in a kid's life if they were like that one teacher that encouraged you, Sarah, and the other teacher that encouraged you too, Richard. That's the power that a teacher can have if you just go a little deeper and feed into their interests and support what they want to do.
Yeah, and plus, some kids are left-brained, some kids are more
Yep.
right-brained. I was more of the creative type. I used to like writing stories and even art projects. I used to love the art projects because I could make Star Wars stuff. In fact, right over here, I'm going to show you this.
Please, please.
Here we go. I have these art projects that are still in my collection right there. Right there. There's a Greedo I had made out of paper mache.
Oh
And
my
I still
gosh.
have that because I loved that so much because I was able to make things and figure out how to sculpt and how to do details. And Sarah, if you pan down, there's a Tusken Raider puppet. And to this day, I'm a puppeteer, and there was my very first puppet right there, a Tusken Raider puppet.
Do you know how old you were roughly? What grade, maybe?
Yeah, it was 1977. I was 8 years old, and I was in third grade.
Oh, third grade. You were the same age then. Okay, great.
puppet?
Did your teacher encourage you? Were they supportive of that?
Yes, they were. Yes, Mrs. White was very supportive of my Star Wars habit.
So look at the difference that teacher had in your life. That it wasn't shut down, it was encouraged, and now you're a puppeteer. And now someone saw your love of Star Wars not as something that was a hindrance.
Not a hindrance.
But no, it wasn't a hindrance. It was a help. It was something to
Right.
get you excited about learning. And I'm a huge proponent of teaching pop culture. Huge proponent of teaching pop culture. And so across multiple grade levels, or all grade levels and all subjects, because again, it's that relevance piece. If kids like it, right? So
Right.
Yeah, there's a Facebook group that is from my elementary school, Horaceman Elementary School, and there's like a 1977 through 1980 Facebook group. And I posted some of these pictures of these art projects I have, and everyone said, "I wish I still had my projects."
Yeah.
Well, these were so special to me that I kept them because they actually, I could see a future here. And I made a paper mache Greedo. Decades later, I went into creature special effects and movies. There's a Tusken Raider puppet. Years later, decades later, I became a puppeteer.
that's
Crazy.
that's brilliant. I love that. I love that.
All because of these educators who said, "Yeah, keep on going.
Exactly.
Keep on.
Oh,
This
yeah.
Star Wars thing might be a something."
That's awesome. I had a seventh grade teacher who had us read The Hobbit, and I'm gonna tell you what, that opened my eyes to a whole new world too. I love Star Wars already, but I like science fiction, fantasy stuff. But when I read The Hobbit, man, I just in eighth grade and ninth grade, I just tore through The Lord of the Rings and Silmarillion. And again, those books developed a love of reading in me. And so to this day, when you become a history major, you have to like to read a lot. And so Miss Kovacs, if you're out there somewhere, that introduction of The Hobbit, that story, really developed me a love for reading. So it's the power of a teacher.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of what your book covers, Imagineering Education. So before we ask you what's next, where can people find this book right now?
Yes, so they can get a copy on either Kindle or paperback on Amazon. So it's readily available. I'm very blessed. We shot to #1 the first week in education administration, professional development, and one other education administration. So very excited about that. But yeah, we've had a lot of interest from principals as well. Amazon is where you can find it.
We'll put a link in the show notes too.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I
absolutely.
appreciate that. And a hardback edition is coming. We just had a little. We had a little delay on the design of that cover, but yeah, it's all good.
We understand.
Yeah, I know, right?
Speaking the language that we know.
Yep. All right, so what's next for you, Thomas? I mean, you have so much to share with the world. What is next?
Yeah, so I've mentioned a little bit about my teaching with Star Wars, and for a long time I've wanted to publish that curriculum and then expand it as well. And so I'm working on a Star Wars and mythology book that I hope to have out hopefully sometime next year. And that's going to be not only a resource for teachers, but also, how you can apply these lessons that you learn through Star Wars and the hero's journey to your own life. Because again, I don't think it's valuable to teach if you can't find some way to apply it to your own life. So you don't have to just be a teacher.
And with the Mandalorian, there's so much more we
Yeah.
can learn about mythology.
Oh wow!
In Star Wars.
Yeah, it's been great. You know, I'm no longer in the classroom, but there's so many episodes. I'm like, man, I need to write a lesson on that.
Yeah, and spirituality too, like especially in that third season.
Yeah, it's
Wow.
about time we got an updated mythology Star Wars book.
Yeah.
Oh wow! Yes, that the spirituality piece in that third season was huge. So yeah, there's so much there. Ready for the Mando and Grogu to come out. Let's go.
Woohoo! All right.
All right. So where can the Skywalkers get a hold of you on social media?
So I am in lots of places. I'm still on Twitter or X at. You can find me at Imagineering Ed, or you can find me also at Indy in the Class, or at Star Wars in the Class. And then on I'm on LinkedIn, Thomas Riddle, and then on Facebook we have Imagineering Education there. Instagram, same thing, Imagineering Ed, and then Indy in the Class and Star Wars in the Class there. So lots of different accounts.
Awesome. All right, we'll link all those.
And then how do you end your classes? Do you have a Neverland on Alderaan? This is the way. May the Force be with you. What do you say to your students before you send them out to lunch?
There's a great, big, beautiful tomorrow, just a day away. Be blessed, everyone.
That wraps up episode 531 of
Skywalking Through Neverland.
We want to thank Thomas Riddle for coming on and telling us all about his new book, Imagineering Education, A Guide to Creating the Most Magical Schools on Earth. And once again, they are available on Amazon, and the link will be in the show notes. Now, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, where we go live most Monday nights at 6 p.m. Pacific, and we share things that we've done in the past week. We also invite you Skywalkers to come on and share something that you've done or added to your collection, and we also do trivia. We're doing a lot of Halloween trivia these couple months.
All of this in Things We Want to Share. Once again, every Monday at 6 p.m. Pacific time. Maria is in the Sky Chat right now, and she is our trivia queen.
That's right. And you can also find us on all socials at Skywalking Pod. Now, are you interested in our books? We still have autographed copies available of Today in Star Wars History, Parts 1 and 2, and Skywalking Through My Fandom, the interactive notebook available now from skywalkingthroughneverland.com/book. Now, do you look forward to our conversations and our live streams every week, and you want to support that? You can consider becoming a member of the Skywalking Force and supporting us through our Patreon. The Skywalking Force has their own dedicated podcast feed that contains early access to many episodes and bonus content like our discussions on certain shows or the entire John Williams Hollywood Bowl concert. We have a couple of those videos available for only the Skywalking Force. So you can head to skywalkingforce.com and have a look at the options available. And we want to thank you all so much to those of you who are already part of the Skywalking Force.
We also want to thank our sponsor, Small World of Vacations, for their continued support. Thinking of a trip to a Disney park, a Disney cruise, or to a Universal Studios theme park? Well, you can fill out a Get a Quote form at smallworldvacations.com today. Their vacation planning service is free of charge. So check it out and tell them Skywalking Through Neverland sent you.
All right, Skywalkers, get ready. We are part of the Skywalking Network.
Skynet.
Where you can find other great shows like Talking Apes.
Which a new episode just came out today featuring Dr. Z. Funny how we couldn't get Dr. Z and Dana Gould in the same room together.
Interesting. Other shows are also on our network, like Star Warsologies,
The Max Effects Podcast,
The Neverland Clubhouse,
Totally Tell Me Everything,
and the YouTube shows Collectopolis and
Today in Star Wars History. Now, don't forget to stick around for bloopers and other fun bits that didn't make it into the show. And
always remember that there's a great, big, beautiful tomorrow just a day away. And Neverland on Alderaan.
And then there was the rise of an emperor.
Hold on.
Sorry, there's an
Emergency
emperor
alert.
I was going to say, that's...
Wow.
The emperor heard what we were just saying, right?
Yeah. It's like, no. Wow. I'm going to hit record. And Richard, I'm going to have you do your clappy claps.
With pleasure.
Now.
Hey, look at those names to the left. They are part of the Skywalking Force, our Patreon.
Become a producer yourself and check out all the Disney Plus themed bonus content available depending on the level you subscribe.
Become a member of the elite Skywalking Force at skywalkingforce.com.